Hi, everybody. Welcome to our fourth live broadcast on our Telestream Facebook page for our Wirecast product. My name's Andrew Haley, and I'm the product evangelist for Wirecast and ScreenFlow here at Telestream. And we have officially landed on Thursdays at 2:30 for our live broadcast for this particular show. And I think we'll more or less call it the Wirecast show. So look for more. We'll put up a calendar with upcoming topics. And up till this point, we'd really just been doing it as we had time and when we could do it and come up with things that people were talking about or might want to know about live streaming to Facebook using Wirecast or the technology that we enable you to use on the Facebook Live pages. And ever since Facebook launched that about a month ago. But it was very, informal. So what we're going to do is try to just be a little more consistent so you can find us. We can interact with you. If you have questions, we can take the comments. We can look at the comments page and, go over things. So look for us every Thursday here at 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. And we will do anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes. Just depending on what the topic is or how many questions we get, and we'll try to keep that interactive. So I hope you'll find this useful. And again, our goal is really just to continue to put out information that may be useful to you, take questions, interact with you guys, see how you're using Wirecast, how it's working with Facebook Live, and to enable this to be a place or a community where you can help each other and reach out. I know there's a lot of broadcasters out there that are kind of starting to stream to Facebook ever since it was introduced recently. And there's just been a really good response across a wide range of people and a wide range of internet broadcasters and some celebrities. And a lot of people are, finding their audience and beginning to generate communities around certain topics. Brian Matiash, who I spoke with earlier this week and was active last week on our broadcast, he's got a show just for photos, which is great, and it's called The Photo Show. And I was watching some of his broadcasts, and he's, it's kind of early days. People are figuring this out and figuring out how Facebook can be used as a medium for live interaction, live material, and content, so that communities can kind of come together. Facebook is already such a great tool for bringing people together with Facebook pages and groups, and people of like minds and like interests can now share that even more with live broadcasts like this. So that's our goal, is to help you with that, because we make software that directly allows people to do this, and we want to show you not only how it works, how to do it, but practice it ourselves. We make software, but we're not necessarily broadcasters by trade. So it's a fun thing for us to work out as we get along, and we get better every time. So I hope we'll continue to improve with you guys and also be able to teach you more about some of the tools that we have provided you with in our software products. And on that note, I've been talking with a lot of broadcasters this past couple of weeks. There's been a lot of questions about things Wirecast can do, things it can't do, and how it all works. And I think the overall theme that I'm finding is that Wirecast is incredibly powerful and allows you to do so much with it that it can even be a little overwhelming. And there will often be times, and I've had several conversations like this, where the person who's using or learning Wirecast, the new learner, did not even know that there was a tool that was already in the software that they needed, or they absolutely found critical to something they were trying to do in their live broadcasts. So that is the theme for this show. It's top 5 things you didn't know about Wirecast. And my goal here is to take a playlist here live so that I can show you what I'm going to try to change my own screen so that hopefully you can see. There we go. So you can now see the slides as I see them. All right, so top 5 things you didn't know about Wirecast. And the first thing that you need to know is to turn off your live icons in your preferences. So let me show you what that means. I'm going to pull on my desktop here, and I'm going to launch a Wirecast window. Just make a new document. When you open Wirecast, this is what you're facing, just a blank document. And often the first thing I tell people is optimize your preferences with any software, you usually want to know what are the defaults. The manufacturer usually sets standards on how we think you might want it to behave out of the box. But that, it's really a one size fits all, and we can't guarantee or guess everything. And one of the defaults we enabled here at Telestream is, by default, we assume you want to see live updated icons in your shot bin. So if I had, say, a webcam, and I'll add one right here, I'll give you an example of what this looks like. So I have a FaceTime webcam here. I'm going to turn it on, and it's blurry. Here's another trick, actually, another default. By default, at least the way the driver's implemented, or we've implemented the driver, typically the built-in iSight cameras will default to the lowest possible resolution. So you'll get really fuzzy or blurry resolution. It's not going to kick into your highest resolution automatically. And so people will get confused. Why is my webcam so blurry? Well, that's the reason. So you just need to know where to change that default and bump up that resolution. And so real quick here, while we're on the topic, let's show you in the source settings is where you configure those. And you're going to select the FaceTime camera from the list of available live sources that Wirecast has access to. And you can kind of see the ones you're using by the green icons that have already been added or are already active in your project. So I'm going to add the FaceTime camera, and then you just, under the video settings drop down here, you change it to the high resolution. And that should pop the camera into high res mode, and that blurriness should go away. So that's a quick default. Again, you need to be aware of, if you're just popping in a webcam, it may not go right to the highest setting. It depends on webcams. Different ones behave differently. It's just a bit of a guess game. But I know particularly with the Max and the iSight cameras, I've found they almost always default to the low resolution. And we'll see if we can fix that in an upcoming version. It may be something we can't. It might be just something native to the API or something, but we will see what we can do. So you can change that to the high resolution. But what I wanted to show was the live icon here. So you see this thumbnail. Obviously, everything's live in my preview window. So when we're talking about this preview area and even the live broadcast area, those should be very full frame, full motion. You shouldn't have any problems with that. But these guys, these shot thumbnails in the shot list, they're a different story. These are really just for your reference and your viewing. The audience will never see these. They're just so you know what shots look like or what's currently in the shot. And these thumbnails can either be live or they can be static. And you change that depending on what you want in the preferences in the performance tab. And so in the Wirecast preferences, there's general, performance, licenses, and so forth. But in the performance tab, you get to choose whether you want this icon to be live or not. And you can see currently I have the box checked, and I can zoom in here a little bit. Currently I have it checked, and it means it's on, but the frame rate is only 1 frame per second. So whereas my hand up here is moving very quickly, and I have a lot of frames per second, again, 30 frames per second is usually standard for video. I'm only getting 1 frame every second, as opposed to 30 frames per second down here in the live thumbnails, because that's what I've set it to. You could slide it all the way up to full live, and now both of those should be the same. They should both be 30 frames per second. What the downside to this is that your computer is going to need to run more processing information, and your graphics card is going to need to work harder in order to keep these little thumbnails live all the time. And you can imagine if I added 2, 3, 4 cameras and additional types of graphics and images, and all of them were live in the shot bin, in addition to being live up in the preview and live windows, that could get pretty taxing on most computers. So my tip is turn down the frame rates of your live thumbnails. I can actually hear my little laptop here is beginning, the fan is spinning up because the computer's having to work a lot harder to keep up with the thumbnail, in addition to also displaying it in your preview window and your broadcast window. So turning down or turning off live icons can instantly drop your CPU usage by quite a bit. And I can even show you an example of that. So let's zoom out here. And I'm going to grab this. I'm actually just going to turn on an output. So it doesn't really matter what output I want to turn on. But let's say I want the CPU, I want to test the CPU's usage. So I might turn on a virtual camera, right? And that'll just give me a rough estimate of what the computer is currently working at. So we can see here in the corner that the CPU is currently at about 14% out of 100. And it is, and it jumps up to about 15. If I move really fast, that's more data that the computer has to process. And you might see things go up a little bit. Doesn't look like it's spiking it too much. There's a little bit of 24% there. Now, if I boost this live icon thumbnail, let's see what happens then. Now it's jumped about 10%. It's going kind of 15, 14, depending on what the activity is. You can immediately see that there's a CPU spike right there. If I turn off live icons, we should see that drop back down a little bit. And it kind of depends on how much is going on. You should see a consistent drop on that percentage with live icons. Your computer is usually going to be happier if it doesn't have to worry about rendering the thumbnails. Graphics card also. Your graphics card's really a big player in this, and so the less your graphics card has to work to produce those thumbnails and keep up with the frame rates in all of the shots in your shot bin, the happier your computer will be. And so in general, I recommend just turn it down. You don't necessarily need 30 frames a second in your thumbnails, and you may not even need live ones at all. So if you're trying to save a little CPU usage or try to save some work for your computer, if you have an older machine and you're not sure how it performs, or you find that it's a little slow, this will speed things up. That is the first tip for today. All right, the next tip. The next tip is turn off IP camera discovery in preferences. This is another quick, easy setting that can usually save you a few percentage points of CPU usage when operating Wirecast. What is CPU percentage? What is IP camera discovery? What does that mean? And what are we talking about when we say turning off your IP camera discovery? So again, in your preferences in Wirecast, you should have a advanced tab, and right here you'll find a list that has some checkboxes. And I think by default we don't necessarily have this box checked. So your default will be the action you want to take is you actually want to check that. You want to disable that. What this is it's IP cameras on your network. So whether you have if you have a IP camera, a camera that basically is designed to stream wirelessly, or is a security camera, or any type of those only Ethernet or only wireless network cameras, there's a lot of them out there. And this is to help, this setting, if it's off, allows Wirecast to look through the whole the whole network and find cameras that are actively sending signals. It kind of helps you discover cameras that are already live. And a good example, I believe, let me see if I thought I saw that. If you go to your source settings, okay, yeah, no, that's all from Tyler Pro, but they would pop up here if you found IP cameras on your network. If Wirecast found any, you would see them pop up in this, in your source settings. If you click disable, then Wirecast isn't going to look. Now, this is only going to apply to, a certain percentage. I think some of you may be using IP cameras and you obviously want Wirecast to find them. In that case, don't check this box. But if you are, the typical Wirecast user usually isn't using an IP camera. They don't need Wirecast to go out and look for any. So just disable it. And again, you'll save some processing power and you can save a little bit of work for your computer and a little traffic on your network. So just a little tip for improving performance. Checking that box can make a big difference. That's why we make these accessible. They're preferences. You can check or uncheck whichever ones you need and apply to you. Some of these other ones, like process using high quality video, that again can save you some. I like to keep it on, obviously, but it depends on your computer's power and capabilities. If you don't have a powerful computer, you might uncheck this one. See what your results are like with or without checking that box. And then render using color space, the YUV color space instead on the GPU. This, I don't have as much of an opinion on this. I believe that checking it is going to cause more processing because you're enabling, you're going against the default. So right now the default is RGB, and RGB is a color space that computers use. And whereas YUV is more of the video color space. So if you are recording to, if your plan is to go out to TVs mostly, not computers, or to a broadcast workflow or something like that, where that YUV color space is important, you may want to check this, but leave it unchecked if you don't want your computer doing more work, or if you're just streaming to the web where people are mostly viewing on devices and computer screens. And then I think RGB is a fine color space to be in. So that is the second tip. The third tip is how to avoid an audio feedback loop. How do you avoid that? Some Wirecast first-timers are very confused about this, and so I wanted to clarify it here. So what is an audio feedback loop? How does it happen, and why does it happen? Well, an audio feedback loop is an infinite loop where it's caused by a microphone hearing a speaker, and then the speaker relaying that, playing what the microphone heard, and it just goes, the speaker's audio goes right back in the microphone, goes back to the speaker, gets played out again. So the same audio is getting reheard, and every time it gets a little louder, a little louder. These electronic devices are so sensitive that they can detect small changes in volume, and the smallest change now becomes I think like a exponential or logarithmic change, where it now is growing and getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And so eventually you get this infinite spiraling feedback loop, and it sounds horrible, and it only gets worse the longer it's on. And you'll be like, why is that happening? So this happens to a lot of new customers that don't understand the ins and outs of how audio works and why audio loops are caused and how to avoid them. So there's two areas of Wirecast that you need to know to help you avoid this. And these are in your controls here, your audio controls. So here I have an icon, which is the master mute control. This is the audio that your audience can hear. It's like the live window up above me here. Anything that's in this window your audience is seeing. It's what you're transmitting or encoding or streaming to. For example, in Facebook, we're using Wirecast. What you see right here is what my Wirecast operator, Deborah Lee, who's helping me out behind the scenes here, it's what she's seeing. She sees everything just like you're seeing it in that window. And that's just visual. This is the audio control for this window. So anything, if it's on, you haven't muted the master audio. And so any audio that's associated with these shots is going out live to your audience. This is your personal control. This is your monitor audio. This is just whether or not you can hear the audio. It doesn't matter if it's on or off. It doesn't affect the live broadcast. So if I take a microphone here, I'm going to change my audio source here to my built-in microphone on my computer. And I should be able to snap, and you should be able to see that. Let me make sure I got that right. Built-in microphone audio. I might need to change the system preferences. This is, again, another, one. It's funny. There it goes. It starts going now. So this is one of those things that's funny because the more I talk about something you might not know, it leads me to other things that you might not know. So just adding an audio shot can be different because you can check built-in audio, but sometimes you need to check your system preferences and see what the sound inputs are setting to. And that's, again, just something that you understand once you start using a Mac long enough. But my input for my Mac is technically not my built-in microphone. It's technically my Mobiola headphone, and I don't really use that. Mobiola is a software only. But if I select on my Apple system preferences, and again, a lot of this comes back to preferences and settings inside software like Wirecast and inside your software like your OS software. The system preferences for your Mac are very important, and if you use a Mac, or again, this would be your control panel on Windows. That's where all the you set all the important things to make your computer work day to day. Same thing with the software preferences, is where you set how things work in the software. Just make sure, in your control panel or in your system preferences that your microphone is the right input. That sometimes makes a big difference, because if it's not, then the software can't necessarily use that source. All right, so what I wanted to talk about was add a microphone. And you see if I snap, it should go up. And I might actually have I'm going to just check here, my audio inspector. Okay, good. So if I rub the microphone, or if I tap or clap or something like that, you should see a little spike in the audio. And that is going to determine whether audio or not is on the stream. And if I click this over, you can actually hear, you heard the audio coming through. My audio is slightly delayed because Wirecast was playing it out. And what's interesting about this is, if I didn't have headphones, if I played this back on the speakers, then Wirecast would hear its own audio, or the speaker would hear the built-in microphone would hear the speakers on my laptop. So right now the audio plays out through here. That's not a problem. So if I turn on my audio monitors, and it looks like there is a delay on the audio, and I want to check why that is. Let me just make sure I turn that off. Why the delay is so significant. Perhaps it's because I have an audio delay on. Well, in any case, what you're getting is, you're seeing this audio bump up and down, but you'll never hear it unless this is turned on. Once this is turned on, once your monitors are turned on, that's when the danger of a loop can be introduced, because now it really depends on where that audio is playing back, and can your microphones hear it. So if I unplug this, if I unplug all the audio here and we just listen, the speaker can actually hear itself. I'm going to try this. We'll see if you can hear it. It's a little tricky with the way we have this set up, because we've patched into my headphones port so that you can hear the audio from the computer. But you might be able to hear it on my microphone here. So let's try this out. This would be a little bit of an experiment. So I'm going to turn this on. And so this should introduce a loop, because what's going to happen is my built-in microphone is going to hear the audio coming out of my speakers. And so this should introduce a loop, because what's going to happen is, and so the microphone is now recording the audio coming out of my speaker. And I'm going to turn that down. The microphone's now recording the very audio that it just recorded coming back out of the speakers. And now you've got this loop, and now it's just going. I'm going to patch back in here, and you might be able to hear the loop. I'm going to turn it up a little. Okay. There is a little bit of a loop going, but it doesn't seem to be too bad. So we may have interrupted it by interrupting the feed. So that is how a loop gets introduced, is when a speaker and a microphone are in proximity to each other, and the microphone can hear the speaker and hear the same audio twice. Now, to avoid that, pretty easy. Either turn off the headphones, or turn off the monitor icon so that it's gray, it's not white. If it's white, it's on. If it's gray, it's turned off. Just doing that will interrupt the ability for the microphone to hear. Another easy way is plug in a headphone. Use a headphones. This is why radio broadcasters always have headphones on, because they have a microphone right there, and sometimes they need to be able to hear themselves or hear their guests. And if they're listening on speakers in the same room, then the microphone will pick up those speakers and they'll get a loop or an echo. So that is how you avoid it, is plugging in some headphones. All right, so what I want to do is maybe just briefly jump over to the Telestream Wirecast page. And I haven't checked the comments here, so I'm going to check those real fast. If there's any comments or questions, we can pause for a second before I move on to the other few things that we want to cover today. So let's turn this off. And here we go. It found me. Okay, looks like we've got some viewers, so good to see you guys. I wasn't actually monitoring the comment page. I was so into getting this description down. But Bruce, thanks for joining us. Alyssa, thank you. Omer, yellow. I assume that means hello. That's nice. Glad you joined us, guys. Okay, so let's talk about, I can, if we do have questions here, let me just scroll through these. Hey, Brian, good to see you. All right, so what headphones and mic am I using? This headphone is just my Bose headphones that I got for my my iPhone. But any set of headphones does just fine. This microphone is, again, I have forgot it again. I literally get asked this question every time, and I literally forget it every time. But I believe it's a Countryman and Associates microphone. And actually, I do remember now. It's an ISOMAX microphone made by Countryman and Associates. It's just a little headset microphone. And it's the one we're using at the moment to kind of isolate my audio. So that is the answer for you there. And actually, I'm glad I got put on the spot and I remembered what we're using here. Bruce, just to confirm, can I broadcast live to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time? Looks like you got your answer there. So that kind of covers the new policies. Facebook does not like simultaneous broadcasting. And yeah, Paul, with the delayed audio, I'd have to spend a little time figuring out what's causing that. It seems a little odd. It could be related to a couple things. I would need to hunt that down and see why that might be happening. My guess is we've delayed my audio in the past and it's a holdover from a previous project, or it could be that I've got a desktop presenter shot going. And that's actually what I want to talk about next, is capturing audio with desktop presenter, because that is a huge source of loops and a place where, it's really easy when you have a physical microphone and a physical speaker. That's easy. Just plug in a headphone or turn off, the speakers so the microphone can't hear the speakers. But it's a little trickier with desktop presenter and the audio that you capture from your computer. So that's a really good topic I wanted to cover. So let me bring that up real fast. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Desktop presenter audio and how to avoid a loop. So this is the fourth thing I want to cover today, and it's related to the previous, but it's a little more complex, and I think it bears showing so that you don't run into this problem. Okay, so the way desktop presenter works, I'm going to just cover this so in case you don't know what it is or how it works. Wirecast has this awesome tool built in to it called desktop presenter or local desktop presenter. And this is the way that you show your screen in Wirecast. And this screen behind me, my screen, is actually being physically captured from my computer, sent out through a capture card and into another computer, into a capture card. So I like that method. But when it comes to, you may not have two computers. You may not want to do it that way. There's a much more convenient tool in Wirecast if you're just a solo operator or if you're just not want to do everything on one computer. And that's called local desktop presenter. And you add a local desktop presenter shot. I already had some set up, but I'm going to make a new one for this case. And what it does is it shows your desktop. You can change whether you want to capture a window. So if you had an application like Chrome open, you could change it to just capture Chrome. So I could actually capture my Facebook page here. And then I can zoom in, like, do I want to capture the Wirecast window? Do I want to capture my dock window or Google Chrome? These numbers are unique number identifiers to the session or the window. They will change. They don't remain the same If you quit Chrome and reopen Wirecast another day and you've left Chrome behind and the same window isn't still open, Wirecast may not find the Chrome window anymore. You may have to repoint it because this number may have changed. So keep in mind that applications have unique session identifiers that can change between windows and times that you open them. So just because you added a Chrome window shot one time doesn't mean Wirecast is always going to find Chrome and always find the window, because the windows may have changed and the unique session ID may have changed. So Wirecast doesn't know what to look for because it's different. It's looking for the old one and Chrome has moved on and done a new one. So keep that in mind. That's another little common error. So select the window or application and that should pop up. And now I can actually see my Facebook page. You can actually getting a preview here of what I see when I look at your comments. I scroll through them here and I just read them on my other screen here on my laptop. But what we are hoping to do at some point, I think maybe we'll try this for next week. We'll bring in our Twitter feed as well, which is another feature Wirecast does. And we can you can hashtag us and we can show live tweets on the screen. Currently, our only social platform integration in Wirecast is Twitter. So you can't, if you want to read Facebook comments, I could do this. I could throw like the Facebook feed. I could capture it with this window with Desktop Presenter and show it that way. And Deborah Lee could do the same thing. And maybe we'll try that also, which is a handy way to capture those feeds live. And we could throw them on the screen to my right or something, which is pretty cool. And maybe we'll try that too. But just keep that in mind. Desktop Presenter is your best way to capture anything on your screen. And this is kind of how we would recommend you bring in Facebook comments until we integrate them directly through the API. Okay, so so once you've set up your window, and I'm just going to go back to my full monitor capture here. And you can, if you have multiple monitors, again, you can select which monitor or which screen you want to capture by just choosing this button at the bottom of the source settings window, and it helps you select your window or monitor. Game capture is another thing. It's very specific to games. It just pulls stuff directly from the GPU, offers different settings that are optimized for game capture. So if you're a gamer, then you can use this setting. You can also check out our Game Show product, which is specifically for game streamers. But I'm going to, again, just capture my monitor, which is the monitor you're seeing. And now I'll talk about these other settings. Do you want to show your cursor? So this is hard to show, but if I uncheck show cursor, if I was out of the full screen mode, it should disappear when I'm in that area. So show cursor will change whether or not someone can see the cursor in the screen. And that's kind of nice. I like this option a lot. It's very effective at not having, if you're doing a PowerPoint slide, you don't see a mouse zooming around the screen, you can turn that off. That's very cool. Capture audio. This is what we're talking about when we talk about loops that can be introduced with the capture audio. Capturing audio through Desktop Presenter is a very powerful tool. It will capture any of the audio on your computer. So if I was playing a YouTube video, I'll use we can go to, or maybe I can show you a resources video on our Telestream page, or a product video. So what we've got is, we've got several videos here. I'll bring this on screen. If I scroll down and I played one of these videos for, say, ScreenFlow, and I played this video, you can hear that, right? Well, the capture audio checkbox in Wirecast would allow Desktop Presenter to also hear that audio. So anything that was being played on the computer or generating sound that gets played out through your sound card, like your headphones or speakers, would be captured inside of the computer. There's what's called a virtual microphone. And Desktop Presenter has a virtual microphone, and that's just a microphone that doesn't really exist. It's virtual. It's just inside the computer. It's a piece of code that listens to the drivers or the other applications and the data that is represented as sound on your computer, and then is translated by the sound card into a speaker to actually make the vibrations that you hear in the air as sound. But when it's still in the computer, it's just data, and it's just, flagged or notified or going through certain channels in the operating system to that are specific to sound and audio. So Desktop Presenter can kind of listen in on that and grab that and pull it into Wirecast as if it was a real microphone you'd plugged into your computer, which is great. Here's the downside. The downside is that it will capture any audio in the computer. Anything. It's not specific. You can't target it to one application. You can't say, please just listen to Skype. Don't listen to Wirecast. Please listen to YouTube, Chrome, but don't listen to my iTunes or MP3 player. You can't tell it what to listen to and what not to listen to. That's not the feature here. It just listens to everything. And that, of course, includes your Wirecast audio. So if your monitors are on, Desktop Presenter can now hear Wirecast. And if Wirecast is listening to Desktop Presenter or playing it back, the audio that's coming from it, then of course you've now got a loop, because Desktop Presenter hears the very audio that it's capturing, recaptures that, plays that back out through Wirecast, which hears it again, and you get another loop. So if we have Desktop Presenter added, and I'll just show you, we'll try it again to demonstrate this. So I'm going to add my Desktop Presenter shot. And there it is. And I believe I checked audio on that. I just want to double check. Okay, capture audio is checked. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take it live, and we'll make sure the local Desktop Presenter. So this is the audio coming from my computer, and we'll take it live. Now, no problems because no audio is really being generated. But if I turn on this audio and I introduce any kind of sound, like turn on a little bit of my microphone. So if I add my microphone, add built-in. So far, nothing's dangerous. You don't really realize the tidal wave that's coming because you think everything's normal. I'm capturing my Desktop Presenter audio, no loops, everything looks good. I've got my monitors on, so I should be able to hear. Okay, and now I'm going to add my microphone to this shot. What's going to happen when this audio that's my microphone, my built-in microphone, comes over here, is now it's going to play, and I'm going to hear it because the monitors are on. And the minute I hear it, because Wirecast is playing it, guess who's listening? The Desktop Presenter is listening, and it's going to capture that into its own virtual microphone and feed it right back into the shot. And then it's going to hear that, and then it's going to feed it back, and it's going to hear that. That's when the loop begins, because it's just heard some audio on the computer coming from Wirecast, and now it's feeding it back to Wirecast. So there you go. So that, and you can always tell a loop because it looks very unique in the VU meters. It has a very specific, sign and sound to it. Obviously, I'm hearing it here. I'm hearing la 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 la. But you see this chugga chugga chugga. It just goes back and forth, and then it just won't stop. Anytime you have something that's like that, and you haven't even talked yet, or you're just not even really talking, then there's a loop going on. Unless you've got an MP3 or a rock song playing somewhere, that's a loop. And so that's how you avoid it. You need to turn this off. Now I can play a YouTube video. Let's go back to our ScreenFlow video, for example. You can hear it, or my viewers can hear it, because Desktop Presenter is listening. But there's no loop because I don't have the audio monitor. And I can also still talk with my microphone without causing a loop, because again, Desktop Presenter can't hear any audio coming from itself. As long as it hears its own audio, then you have a problem. I just love that song, so I was letting it play a little long here. All right, that is, again, we go back to the definition of what is a loop. A loop is anything. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. A loop is anything that, anytime a microphone can hear its own audio. So, and again, but microphone, and all that means is it hears it starts recording the very sound that it just recorded, or a second time, and then a third, and then a fourth, and then it builds and builds and builds. So, and that's true for virtual devices and microphones as it is for physical microphones. Okay, that is kind of, I hope, an exhaustive, in-depth look at looping and how to avoid loops and why loops occur and why that happens in Wirecast. And there are things and technologies that we're aware of that can help fix all that, and we're working on some stuff. So I think you guys will be excited. But for now, that's the way it works in Wirecast 6. Okay. Let's jump to number 5. Hotkeys plus auto live equals awesome. What does that mean? So some people don't know what auto live is, and this is a basic concept in Wirecast. It's covered in the tutorial, which is in the help section in the PDF. It's, I think, chapter 3 of the user manual or the user guide. Very nice little tutorial. You should walk through it. I recommend everyone do that. I always do. I even started guiding people to some of the principles that are taught in that in our basic series, because I kind of figured, why should I invent a project when there's already a tutorial project and you all have access to it? So use the tutorial. But one of the things that's covered very early on when you learn about switching in Wirecast is called auto live. And if you don't know what that is, or if you haven't been through the tutorial, it's simply the difference between working in this dual preview live mode. In preview mode, you can set something up in preview, but it's not live yet. When you hit the go button or the transition button, it now goes to your audience. This is working in without auto live. You're not automatically, things you click on don't automatically go live. You have to take them live using the go button or using the space bar or the enter key on your keyboard. So I can hit spacebar there and take that one live and hit that one. And this is nice because I can even throw on multiple changes. So if I wanted to, I don't know, throw on a title in this and add another shot up to the top one and bring in, a Twitter feed or something like that, I can bring that in and resize it, move it around. And all this is happening and my audience has no idea that I'm prepping all this stuff coming next. Or the Wirecast operator is doing things. And when it's ready, I now take not just one thing, but several things live. If I also changed, something else, I moved my position of my shot and I took that live. Now I just took 2 things all at once. And you could do that almost infinitely in Wirecast. You could change a whole mess of things in this preview window and then take those changes live. It allows you to do more than one thing. Rather than just take the if I'd done that all one at a time, then, you would have seen the Twitter feed go in, and then you would have seen my size change go in, and all that would have happened at separate times, each one being taken live one at a time. So the advantage of not working in auto live is that you have this control, you have everything in the preview window, you can set everything up the way you want it before it goes live, and you take it live. A very nice way to work when you need it. Sometimes though, that can be that extra step of having to click on something, then you hit the spacebar, take it, and then take that. I mean, that's just an extra step. If I just already have all of my shots the way I want them, I've preset everything I know, and all I need is just things to come on the screen one at a time, or just as I need them, then turning on automatically go live, which is with the Command L button. If we turn that on, you'll see right here on the screen, the go button is now permanently on. The light just comes on. It tells you that that's going to be on all the time now. And this makes it easy for solo operators or people doing sports or have already done that don't want to go through an extra step. Now, whatever they click on just goes live. And that is a very nice way to work sometimes. So very cool, right? But you notice that we really are doing just one thing at a time now. And if I had multiple shots and layers, again, I'd have to click on one thing and then click on my title and then click on that, and it would all have to happen sequentially. Now, this is where hotkeys get introduced. If you want to do multiple things and do them all at once and just do it with a single button press, that's where a hotkey can come in really handy, and the way to use hotkeys can be super useful. Now, this is a bit more of an advanced technique. I think I covered this in the advanced Wirecast webinar tutorial. So you can go to that for more, seeing this again or in more detail. So I don't expect this to be your one introduction to this concept, but we can talk more if you have questions, or but you definitely should check that out in the resources page. If you haven't, that tutorial is helpful. So I'm dragging this and it's resisting here. I think that's because let's make sure we're here. Okay, my desktop presenter shot is not wanting to go down. I'm not sure why that is. That could be, oh, there we go. Okay, maybe it says in the wrong section or area. All right, so now I've got these shots, and let's say I didn't want my default social media or Twitter feed to come in inside the shot. I only want to bring it on the screen at certain times or in certain configurations. And this is, reset the position here. I've got my desktop presenter shot. I've got my FaceTime shot. I could add a third shot. We could make it a graphic. And maybe I will make it this. Okay. So we've got this shot of the green screen with the ladies in front of it. We've got the desktop presenter. We've got 3 shots lined up here. And what I can do with a hotkey is I can make this auto live thing really simple, right? So if I right click on any of these shots, I can assign a number key from 0 to 9, up to 10 keys. And I will just make 1, 2, and 3. And this one will be 3. All right, so now you can see, I'm gonna zoom in here. You can see I've got a 1, a 2, and a 3, a little badge on each shot. And that corresponds, that's just mapped those shots to those numbers. And so if I hit the 1 key, the desktop presenter 1 automatically goes live. I hit the 2 key, that automatically goes live. I hit the 3 key, that automatically goes live. And that's because auto live is on. This is a neat way to work because now you're switching shots with just pressing a key on your keyboard, and it's really fast, and it's a great way to switch. Totally programmable. You could even have a wireless keyboard or something that you could take anywhere and just tap the shots. So that's neat. But if you were working without auto live on, then those shots wouldn't be taken live automatically. They'd be punched up in the preview window, but you'd still have to take them live, which again you'd have to enter a space bar. So again, a 2-step process as opposed to a 1-step process with auto live turned on. Where this gets interesting is when you want to add another layer or another type of shot or something on the top. So let's say we wanted to add a lower third. And my quick power tip for that is just go up to the Twitter menu and hit create shot. That'll instantly pop in a default social media shot with a lower third on it. And you can change that really fast to any type of title or graphic you want. And I'm just going to add the, right? So we'll just do that. And then let's say you've got, we assign this to be number 3. Actually, we already have it 3. So let's make this number 4. Okay. Now I can take all this off. So I can punch up 1, and that goes live. I can now hit 2, switch that as we were doing before, right? Now if I hit 4, I'm actually bringing in that title. This is cool because I just hit a button and I brought in the lower third. What's problematic about this is that I have no way to get this shot off the screen. I have no way, if I don't have another number that I can press. If I press 1, 2, or 3, it leaves the title on because nothing else has ever told Wirecast there's another shot on layer 1 to go to. It's saying, oh, well, told me to go with number 4 and hasn't told me to do anything else on that layer. So a shot will stay live unless you specifically tell Wirecast to take another shot on the same layer, to replace it with another shot on the same layer. Because Wirecast has 5 master layers and it has 1 active shot per layer, you have to instruct it to go to a different shot on the same layer in order to remove a title or to add a different title. And so you may want to add another, just a blank new shot. You can't assign hotkeys to this yet, to these on the right, on the blank shots. You have to create just a blank empty shot and give it a shortcut as well. So we can make that 5. So now I've got groups of keys where I can hit the 1, the 2, and I can bring in my 4, and I can change it to 5 and bring in a different, like turn it off and turn it back on and turn it off because I'm just hitting 4 and 5. And then I go back to 1, 2, or 3, and then I turn on 5. Where this gets a little tricky is you have to remember the groups of keys that you assigned, because you're kind of like, well, 7 through 9 are my titles, and 1 through 5 are my main shots, and you're still hitting 2 keys. What's neat about this is you can actually decide, well, I'm only ever going to show this title with Andrew's camera, because it says, it's Andrew's name. And then I can actually, every time I hit 2, I want that title live. So at this point, you could just reassign this to be 2. So now you can have a 2 on layer 1 and a 2 shot on layer 2. You could also have a 2 shot on layer 3 and a 2 shot on layer 4. So now when you hit 2, you can call up to 5 shots live at the same time. This is where you get around the disadvantage of auto live, where you have to do one thing at a time. You no longer have to do one thing at a time when you use hotkeys with auto live. I can do 2 things or 3 things or 4 things. And if I put stuff inside those shots, obviously much more than that. So in this case, I can bring up 1, which is just 1 shot. But if I bring up 2, I'm instantly pulling 2 shots in directly from different layers. And that's really neat. And then I could also assign, anytime I want, 3 to go live, I could give this 3, right? Duplicate shot 3. I'm sorry, assign keyboard. There we go. So you can do, your 1 shot, your 2 shot, your 3 shots, and then go back to 1, and you don't have a title jumping on there. So there's different ways to work. If you know the order in which you're going to be, bringing shots on, the order in which you use hotkeys can be very important when you're using multi-layers like this, where you have the same shot assigned to the same number, or 2 shots assigned to the same number. So if I hit, 1, then that actually leaves the title on, because 1 doesn't instruct, it's not 3, it doesn't instruct anything on layer 1. So I need a 1 shot to also be a blank shot on layer 3. And you can't assign more than 1 keyboard shortcut to a key. So I couldn't make the blank shot here 3 and 1. I'd have to make another one that was also, 3 or 1. That way, Wirecast is calling a different shot every time I hit a number. That's kind of one way to set that up. And if you work through the types of combinations you want with the keys, you can get a lot out of it. It's really neat. And then, of course, the danger is that if you need to go backwards in your sequence, you need to know that you might do that. Going backwards, can leave a shot live if you weren't prepared for that. If there's no corresponding number on that layer. So in general, when doing this, make sure there's a shot on each layer that you're using that has the same number, and be aware of that. The other way is the first way we showed you, where you group the keys and you just do 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and so forth, are just different types. There's a third and final way, and this is kind of a neat way to work. So let's say we unmap all the keys. And I love that because it's quick. It's a fast way to unmap everything. Let's move this over. There we go. So the new shot there is the great way to blank everything out. And let's create another new shot on this layer. Oops, I made a new playlist. Let's delete that. That shouldn't matter. but I'm just gonna do that. We'll make a new shot there. And just for reference, I'm going to assign these to 0. Now I have 2 shots on this, and I'm going to give the other ones, their own keyboard shortcuts. So actually, let's make that 1. Let's make this 2 again. And we'll make this 3 again. All right, so now what's interesting about this is it's not necessarily designed for an auto live method of working. This is when you want to use a punch. If you turn off auto live, this can be really useful, because what I can do here is I can pull up my first shot and take it live. I just hit 1 and my space bar to take it live. I can then take 2 live and 3 live. And I can pull on my title, which I don't think I gave a number here. So let's do, let's make the title 4. Okay, and I can push on 4 and take that live. Now, in order to get 0, in order to take the title off, I either need to make another, a 5 up here, or what I can do is just through a combo, I can, if I hit the keys in the right order, get things the way I want. So how would I do this? I need to 0 out the title, and then the only way to hit another key on the first layer here is to hit the 0 key. So I hit the 0 key. That's great. It just blanked everything out. And I'm not in auto live, so I haven't taken the feed off. But I now need to punch up the same shot but without the title. So I know that that's just 3. Now I hit it. So you've got this cool and then if I bring the title on again for this guy, bring it in. Now I want to bring in, say, my shot without the title. So again, you have to hit the 0 key. You just 0 everything out and then just punch up the shot you want. So the 0 key can kind of get everything done. You don't need to do that. You don't need the 0 key if you just have 1 layer's level of shots on. So I technically didn't need to do that to pull up another shot. I could have hit 1 or 2 or 3, and there's no problems with that because there's no titles. But anytime you introduce a new layer, or a second or third or fourth layer, you would need to blank it out with the 0 key, and then you have to punch up the orders of the shots you want. So that's another way to work. Bringing in that title can make it complex. So keep that in mind, and that's when you might want to have just a 0 everything out command, and then punch up the shots you want. Okay, those are the 3 main ways that I know of for working with hotkeys. And when you use hotkeys with auto live, it can be very powerful because you can take more than one thing live at a time. You can have 0 through 9 shots on layer 1, 0 through 9 shots on layer 2, 0 through 9 shots on layer 4, all mapped to those keys. So technically only 10 combinations, but you can see that you can actually do some pretty interesting things when you start messing around with it. And my tips are just to be sure to avoid, what order you do things, and then be aware of the method you might want to work in the most. Okay, that was a pretty exhaustive description of all the 5 things I think you need to know about Wirecast. There's a lot more. I think we'll do more of these. I hope just doing these kind of in-depth learning sessions can be helpful for you guys. Let's go to the comments. All right, 20 live viewers. All right, we've had some increase in viewership since I last checked. And what's going on? Alyssa, nice for you to join us. Will told me you might be tuning in today, so I'm glad that you made it. I hope to talk with you more if you are getting into this. Thanks for the hashtag there. Will, good to see you on here. Hotkeys let you self-produce. They certainly do. And that is they're a great way to just get in charge of your own broadcast, and you can kind of self-manage a lot of this stuff. I'm lucky enough to have an extra set of hands, so we're a team in here. Brian, does that led you to another feature request? To assign a hotkey to clear a layer without having to create a new shot. Yeah, we're actually working on that, so don't worry about that. It's in the works. Yeah, the best way is creating a new shot. So for now, you just have to work around that, because blank shots are, they're very unique. They're not like other shots. So they're gonna warn you that they can't be treated or edited or anything. There's a little bit of a sneaky workaround. If you just don't like having them on there, and the new shots, you've assigned hotkeys to them, so you have new shots in there and they're kind of taking the place of blank shots, you should be able to just delete your shots. So I'm going to maybe pull on my screen again real fast. So let me show you that. So if you've got this blank shot, well, actually I'll zoom out here. If you hit this blank shot cannot be edited. If you try to right click on it, it's going to warn you, and that's because again, they can't be edited. They're not like other shots. They're supposed to be there by default so that you have something to blank out your screen. But if you needed hotkeys and you needed hotkeys to blank something out, and so you created these new shots like we did in this tutorial, then you kind of have double duty here, right? You've got like your blank shot, but you also have your new shot. And if you just don't like having them cluttering up your timeline, you can delete them. And if you hold the command key and hit delete, that just gets rid of blank shots. There is a danger to this. You cannot get them back once they're gone. So, if you have a project and you can't undo it, deleting them out of that project, they're gone from that project. So you can open a new document and they should be in there. You haven't deleted them from every Wirecast document ever, but you have deleted them from that document. So you may not care. That may not be a big deal to you because you have new shots there. But that's a way to clean it up if you just want to have new shots that are assigned hotkeys. Another little cool tip for you guys. Paul, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, experts. I know Wirecast pretty well, but I'm not. I'm still. There's too many ways to use Wirecast in the real world for any one person to know all the different ways or the best techniques inside the program. So keep, what a lot of stuff I figure out by trial and error and just seeing like, okay, I want to do this. How would I do that? And I think of a lot of little things like that along the way. The software, when it's designed by our developers who are brilliant and amazing, they try to anticipate as many things as they can, but they don't know all the ways or the workflow scenarios or headaches that might be involved with the way they structure certain controls or methods inside the program. So they do their best, but there's just inevitably going to be things that you're going to want to do that the developers didn't think about or couldn't anticipate when they made the program work in a certain way. So, we work those out as we find people you're using it in more and different ways. We change things and try to make it easier. A good example here is just that Wirecast used to work in a way where you could actually click and drag thumbnails around on the screen. And, in Wirecast 5, we first introduced it. If you go back to that early version, you could drag these around, reorder them and all that just by clicking on the picture. We found that when you're switching really fast, people could leave their mouse on just for a fraction of a second too long and accidentally move a shot when they didn't mean to. And so the whole shot would jump and they wouldn't know why. And they're like, what's going on? And we just found that, if you're in the middle of a live show or switching too fast, the last thing you want are your shots reordering themselves or jumping into a playlist when you didn't mean to do that. So we changed it so that you have to be very intentional now when you want to drag or reorder a shot. You have to actually not just click on the picture. You need to hover over, the actual name tag of the shot. And then your mouse icon turns into a hand. And then that, okay, now I'm grabbing it. Now I'm, having to really be intentional when I move my shots. So we thought that's a good compromise for a control that a usability issue that we were finding. And of course, when you introduce something like that, yeah, we made it less likely for you to reorder your shots by accident. But what we also did was made it harder to move them. And so some people find it a little more frustrating to move their shots around. So, or it just takes a little, they don't figure it out at first. I think overall the change was a good one because it solved maybe a more critical issue. And, you sacrifice. There's always good and bad to any decision. When I first started working here, I think I had the idea that, no, there's always a best way. There's just a best way to do this. Let's just do it the best way. And the more I focused on, I would work on usability things. Let's do it this way, not that way. I would always find that there was an unintended consequence that I wasn't thinking about when we introduced a different workflow scenario. So just keep in mind that it's never going to be perfect for everybody. It's always going to be frustrating for someone, and no matter what we do. And hopefully we'll just minimize that. But great feedback. Develop desktop presenter for Android. Absolutely, that would be very cool. It's not there yet, or for iOS and for Android. So that's from Juan. That's a good comment. What configuration would be best for a live guest via Hangout so I can hear them but not have to be picked up in a loop? So the desktop presenter loop that I was showing you guys is a really good common workflow when trying to bring in a Skype guest or a Hangouts guest. You want to hear their audio and you want to bring into Wirecast and you want to be able to hear them, but you don't want to create a loop. And that's where it gets tricky. And honestly, what I recommend is routing the audio out of the computer and then back into the computer. So, and not using the desktop presenter if possible for the sound. And that way you can listen to the sound outside the computer and pull their Skype audio out and then just recapture it into the computer into Wirecast through a physical capture card or a USB card or something like that. That reduces the likelihood or the frustration when trying to hear the audio in Wirecast if you're trying to listen to, say, a video or something like that. So that's, if you can't get your Skype presenter or Skype caller on a different machine entirely, like one idea you might want to play around with is try Skyping on your phone and using a capture card to just pull the audio and video in from the phone. That's a kind of a cool way to get a little Skype call on an external device. Now you've got your audio and video all located off of your system, and now you're not having to mess with trying to listen or route that audio virtually. So I always recommend having a second computer or a second machine or a second device, if at all possible, to isolate your caller and be able to bring their audio in and video separately. If you can't do that, you don't have the luxury or there's just not going to work for you, you can do the desktop presenter route and it can work. You just can't, you kind of have to do that loop or pass through out back in order to be able to listen in on their audio while Wirecast. Skype's kind of good. It can actually route the audio to a second device, so you can just hear the Skype audio through a second set of headphones or a USB headset, and then or through maybe but then you've got to capture it with desktop presenter and just turn off the Wirecast monitor. So if there's any other audio that you wanted to hear, it can get difficult because you can't hear other audio like clips or videos or anything in Wirecast. So it is possible, but usually I find keeping them on a separate device is my preferred method of handling external callers. And we're going to be bringing in remote callers, remote guests through our Skype machines and integrations. Jeff Bradbury, good to see you. Ken James, how do you avoid feedback when using external sound card and an external audio being piped in through a mixer into the sound card and into the computer? I get feedback delay from the audio out of the computer into my mixer. So I guess, Ken, you should probably write in and we can look at your setup a little bit and see what might be particular to you. I couldn't necessarily diagnose that without being a little bit more familiar with how things are going. We have a really cool support team. Stephen Haywood is one of our lead Wirecast support person. So if you own Wirecast, you are going to you can work with guys like Stephen, and Kitty is another great tech that we have on staff that works with people, and they know a lot about how to route your audio so you're not getting feedback loops. So you can work with them if you're having problems with that. But in general, you may want to, you're going to have to isolate sound so that you're not, again, having the microphone hear itself. You can get a feedback loop if, for example, you're playing computer audio into the mixer and then recapturing that computer audio into Wirecast, but you're listening through Wirecast, because now Wirecast is going to send out audio into the mixer, and now Wirecast is going to capture its own audio, so that you have a loop there. You just need to be very careful on which sources are sent where and what's listening to what. So if you have a feedback loop, you've definitely got something hearing itself and its own audio. And generally that happens when the Wirecast monitors are on. The nice thing about an external mixer, you can route all the audio out of the computer, and then you can listen to it, mix it on the computer, on the mixer, and then route it back in. You can also mute channels. Sometimes you may need to mute your own audio or some other audio before you take a shot live, because that will avoid it. So keep that in mind. You may need to configure not just what sources are going where, but being aware when you have to hit a mute button to avoid a loop. All right, I think I covered all the most recent. Will this be available later? It will be, Brian. You will be able to see this. We keep all these on the archives on Facebook. Mix minus, totally. We're working on stuff, so we are aware of the loop issue. I wanted to address it for now because people are, get confused by it. It can be a challenge. Why is my stream button not red? Good question, Dominic. I'm not actually streaming this anywhere. I'm just showing you how Wirecast works, and this stream is coming from another computer that's being operated next to my computer by the lovely Deborah Lee Merchant. Does Facebook have a preview so that we can test before we're live? Will, that's a really good question. I don't think it does. I think it's not like YouTube. I think you just start streaming, that I'm aware of. There may be some controls online. I haven't played around with them much. I've done all of our event creation inside Wirecast using our Wirecast API integration. And to my knowledge, there's no preview. You're just using the Wirecast preview if you want to preview anything prior to it going out live. So, good question. I don't know what Facebook's plan is with that. Yes, Glenn, you can get a replay somewhere, so check it out. You just go to the Facebook page, Telestream Wirecast, Facebook, the page you're on now, and once this is done, we're done broadcasting, you should be able to see all that in the video section. If you go to click on the more at the top of the Facebook page, you've got like pictures about some of the, and you click on more and you see videos. All live broadcasts to Facebook are archived in the video wall. All right, you guys, I think that covers just about everything. And we had a long broadcast today, so this was fun. I really got to dive in and show you some in-depth things you may not have known about Wirecast. And we'll do more of this. I've got other things I can talk about and share, from the basic to the very complex and advanced. So we'll continue to just teach you as we learn stuff. And I love getting tips. Some of the stuff I discover from users that share it with me and share tips like that. So, please pass those along. And you can email me at andrewh@telestream.net. That's andrewh@telestream.net. Follow us or tweet us at Wirecast. I'm usually on there, and our Alexis is another person here who watches that. If she has something specifically or addressed to me, she'll forward it to me. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday at 2:30 Pacific time. Bye-bye.